Thank you,
You're
Mr.
next.
Chairman. I want to thank you and the ranking member for having the hearing today, and Ambassador Kirk, thank you for your willingness to testify. We all know how important trade is to our economy. 95% of the world's population lives outside the United States, and so, and yet we generate more than a fifth of the world's income. So the way to maintain that level of income is to continue to open up markets and expand the sale of American-made goods and services. I may not agree with every approach to trade advocated by the President, but I certainly believe that working together we can continue what I think is an incredible success story that is America's export economy. And just this week we saw Chairman Baucus and I were able to work with our colleagues to get through the Senate something that in a matter of days is an important trade enforcement law, which around here I might add is warp speed. That doesn't happen very often, but I hope that the President will sign that into law and look forward to working cooperatively on a trade agenda moving forward. I wanted to highlight a couple things quickly, if I might. The first is Japan's inclusion and potential importance of that inclusion in the TPP from the perspective of American agricultural exports. Japan's the world's third largest economy, has historically been a very important market for our exports, and their interest in joining TPP leads me to believe that they're committed to adopting the high standards of the TPP. However, there remain a significant number of outstanding issues that need to be addressed concerning the persistent barriers that they put up to certain segments of American agriculture, as well as autos and services for that matter, and including issues regarding Japan Post. Can you assure me that you will remain vigilant in addressing these concerns so that if Japan does eventually join the TPP negotiations, we will be likely to see real benefits to our farmers, ranchers, manufacturers, and service providers?
Senator, absolutely. I will give you that assurance. And first of all, thank you and Chairman Baucus and other members of the committee for the very important action that you took to protect American manufacturers and exporters against dumping and the speed in which you addressed it. I do think that speaks well of how quickly we can work together as a Congress to do things that are in the interest of American businesses and workers. So thank you for that. And I think you know we have pressed and are going to continue to press Japan to fully open their market and meet their obligations with respect to opening their agriculture and on insurance, whether they join TPP or not. I want to make it plain. We don't see any linkage of those. These are issues we have been pressing Japan for action on. Secondly, we welcome Japan's interest in joining the Trans-Pacific Partnership, as we do Canada and Mexico's. But as we have said to all of the members, this is something countries aspire to. And that means you have to be willing to meet the high standards we're seeking to achieve throughout the partnership, and that everything's got to be on the table. Now, we are encouraged with Prime Minister Noda's leadership on this, but one of the advantages of our Federal Register system is Japan knows fully the concerns that you have expressed and other stakeholders, and we are going to engage them very honestly on how we would address those concerns, particularly with respect to autos and the insurance markets and agriculture.
Okay, good. Thank you. As you probably know, my home state of South Dakota is a major ethanol producer. I would like to bring to your attention concerns I'm hearing from ethanol producers regarding actions by Brazil, which consumes about a third of our ethanol exports and is America's largest ethanol export market. Our nation's gone from a net importer of ethanol as recently as 2008 to exporting 1.2 billion gallons last year, which far exceeds the export volumes of any other nation. Recently, however, the U.S. ethanol industry has complained that while the U.S. has removed our barriers to ethanol imports, Brazil has been erecting barriers to our ethanol exports, specifically the state of Sao Paulo, which serves as the entry point for almost 3/4 of all exports from the U.S., recently announced a discriminatory tax scheme whereby imported ethanol must pay the ICMS sales tax at the point of customs entry, while at the same time deferring payment of the ICMS tax for domestic product. As a result of this policy, American ethanol exports through Sao Paulo are being disadvantaged by requiring them to pay a tax upon entry, but at the same time allowing a domestic product to pay the tax at a later date, if at all. In light of that, I'd be interested in knowing in what efforts you might be engaging in or planning to engage in to address claims that these recent efforts are erecting technical barriers to trade or otherwise preventing free and fair trade with Brazil.
Well, Senator, we believe, as you do, this should be an open and unfettered market. I do think, and not to be repetitive, it is a very good news story how quickly we went from producing a limited amount of ethanol to being a net exporter. That is a tremendous export opportunity for us. And we have heard from the same industries you have. We will use every bit of leverage we have, to be frank, including the forthcoming visit from President Rousseff to raise these issues. At our last, when President Obama visited Brazil last year this time, I think, you know, we created through USTR a trade agreement enhancement committee. We'll be meeting next week, and we will raise all of these issues. And we might, if with your permission, like to reach out with you to get a little more background.
Yeah, we would be happy to provide that in hope that you would be able to engage them on this issue when you meet with them.